morning.
Good morning.
Just getting my packet. And I'm going to take a minute, Cindy. That's what we worked out this time.
Some people for tonight, sit there and do the legal version.
Yeah,
Which one happens?
action item.
Our phone is on. Straight up. Especially for recording.
That's the, if we weren't recording it, I would.
Just one note, okay. Okay.
You mean about the Word document?
Yeah, about creating. Thanks.
Are you a instructor too? Yes.
All right, so
I'm sorry, and that's the part.
okay. Ready?
Hi.
Okay. So welcome everyone. This is our March Public Health and Safety meeting. We're going to start. And we have the mayor on Zoom with us. So we're ready to go. All right, the first item is the approval of the minutes from February. Could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, and we vote to approve? Okay, so we're back on track with our minutes, and I'm going to take the minutes today. Okay, so next, public comment. We have two folks in the room, so we could start in the first row.
Hi,
Molly, would you like to speak? Just state your name again and address for us.
sure. Molly Burke, 215 Iona. I'm just here to follow up on the last two meetings and see where we are with the 200, 300 block of Iona traffic concerns, traffic speed safety concerns. I don't have new comments, but I just wanted to be here to hear where we are.
Okay, thank you for coming, and we have received your comments by email as well. So we're going to talk about them more today. Okay.
Yes,
Could you say your name again?
Sure, Jay Whitmore.
Jay.
I'm at 121 Windsor. This is my third consecutive meeting attendee. A very narrow interest stop sign person, so the stop signs remain accurate. Understand that there's a long process that needs to be gone through with DOT, and with the caveat that that all can proceed, what I'd like to raise is a challenge to proactively put out these four-way stops at Windsor Conway, Windsor Dudley, and ideally also Windsor and the G1, Grayling. And the justification there is that if we need to get a long-term DOT approval, that's something that we can do while those signs are up in an interim manner, in my opinion. And the reason I bring that up is because I haven't seen the police activity report in the past couple months, but my guess would be that we're not writing a lot of tickets on those stop signs anyway. So we might as well just be proactive, put those out, and then we can work to get the DOT approval afterwards, after everything's up. And then to your earlier point, no real new comments. I have taken a few videos as I've been out there at the Conway and Windsor intersection with my children in the morning. So just some dangerous. I don't want to exaggerate, right? Nobody got hit by a car, but these are not trivial concerns. These are cars that are speeding In the former, 2 months ago, DOT kind of sneak peek in the traffic data, there were cars that were going 50 miles an hour. And, in the interest of public safety more than anything else, I think it's high time that we get these stop signs out there to disrupt this traffic flow and, just standardize, gridify the town, again, in the interest of public safety. So that's what I'd like to just, challenge us all on, and see if we can have a bias towards action, get this up, and then chase the approvals afterward if necessary.
So, okay, thank you, Jay.
Take 2 more meetings and you 2 get a free cup of coffee.
Oh, wow, I'm ready.
Start my lunch card.
Maybe we should do a punch card.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Do you have those videos available to share?
I got one on my phone, yeah.
Yeah, if you email them to
I
us.
think I emailed this.
Yeah.
All right, so we will be discussing traffic concerns shortly, so we'll take that under advisement. So thank you both. Okay, so. Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, just traffic. Yeah. Okay, yeah, might as well. Okay, so I think we're gonna discuss the traffic concerns now while we have residents here. And then we'll come to the items 3 and 4 after. Okay, so first we have 5.1 Conway Dudley Windsor stop signs. And then we have 5.2 Iona. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Rob. So where we're at right now with the stop sign issue is our traffic engineer did end up getting back to me after the packet went out. He unfortunately had a personal situation going on last week and is out today for a funeral. So he didn't instruct me any comments or questions that come up today for me to pass on to him, and he will respond to ASAP for us, and I can directly send that to the committee as well as the relevant interested parties here. So what I did get back from him regarding the stop signs, which I did also pass on to Mr. Whitmore as well as to the committee, is with the data available to the traffic engineer, he found, as we talked about in January, a warrant for stop signs at the intersection of Conway and Windsor. So if the committee wanted to proceed with that, we would have the regulatory approval basically in place to proceed with that. For Windsor and Dudley, he did not yet have the warrant. Not to say we won't have the warrant. He just didn't have the data he needed yet to justify that and needed some more time to work on that one. I totally understand where Mr. Whitmore's coming from on that. As you all know, working with me for a couple years now, I'm someone who likes to see things get done as well. That being said, I'll do whatever the committee wants to do. I would be a little bit hesitant to do something without the regulatory, without the warrant in place. However, if the committee does want to proceed with that, that's not a hill I would die on, so to speak. And then I did remind the traffic engineer that we also wanted him to take a look at Grayling and Windsor as well. So he had promised by our next meeting that he would have that examination done for us. So that's where that one is at. I would recommend in general following the advice of the traffic engineer to proceed with the stop signage at Conway and Windsor, to wait another month for the additional information for the warrant for Dudley and Windsor unless the committee feels strongly about proceeding without that. And then next month we'll have the information for Grayling and Windsor. The other thing I'll note about stop signs, just for public notice, as well as so the committee understands, we had previously approved stop signage for Price and Conway. The reason that hasn't been done yet is because, and I'm willing to admit this sort of thing, In our budget for 2023, council had approved Public Works buying a core drill because we've been renting one for the past few years, which was incredibly cost inefficient for the borough. And we had a lot of problem with our vendor actually getting the core drill, but we have the core drill now. We got it last week, so now we can actually drill the holes to actually put the signs in.
Oh, great.
Nice.
So yes, there's no longer a implementation bottleneck in regards to that.
So can I just comment on your comment? So I do think that we have really pivoted towards regulatory practices and following some sort of process and plan. My only hesitation in just putting them out is that suppose they aren't warranted and then we have to take them down. I feel like that would cause more confusion. But with that said, I think it's imperative we get this stop sign up before Little League starts April 1st.
Yeah.
Because that's
Which one, Conway?
Conway and Windsor, Conway and Windsor. I do think, again, we have been using making evidence-based decisions, so I'm hesitant to do anecdotal. However, to have stop signs at, 8 out of the 10,
Right, and then not the other one.
and not the other 2, just makes no sense to me, and particularly outside of preschool. I would,
Over Grayling.
yeah, Grayling. Where I will have to say, I do have a friend who was in an accident there because the person on Grayling assumed there was a stop sign on Windsor and got T-boned. I would be willing to put our evidence-based decisions aside and put the other 2 stop signs up just for consistency. I would really like to see that happen.
Yeah, as I mentioned in previous meetings and with the information we get from the traffic engineer, it's not that he doesn't think there's not a warrant for it, it's just he just doesn't have data yet to justify it.
So I would support let's go forward. I would also support Andrew. I don't see that data either. Like, let's make it known if you roll through a stop sign in Harvard, you're gonna get a ticket. I would love to see that happen, so.
So you're talking about, so this committee could just kind of give its approval to go ahead with Conway Windsor, and then does it need to go to council, or you could just?
Yeah, but what would happen, to be honest, is, this committee could go ahead, if this committee said to Cindy's point, that, given these circumstances, we're just gonna go ahead and put these stop signs in.
Mhm.
We could do that, and then what would need to happen is Borough Council would actually need to approve an ordinance to,
Okay.
for us to actually be able to properly enforce those stop signs.
I see.
And actually on council's agenda for Thursday, which will be out later today, is doing the ordinance for Price and Conway stop sign.
Oh, okay.
So could we amend that to add the
That's what I
others?
was gonna suggest.
Yeah.
Well, no, council can't yet do the ordinance for Dudley and Windsor,
Right.
or Dudley and Grayling at Windsor, because you don't have the warrant yet.
But if we're
But you
willing,
could go ahead and do Conway as part of it. You could do Conway and Windsor and Conway and Price. Let me back this up. We could go ahead and put all 4 stop
Yeah.
signs up if the committee wants to do that. And then at the council meeting on Thursday, you could go ahead and do the ordinance for Conway and Price and Conway and Windsor. And then once we have the warrants for Windsor and Dudley and Windsor and Grayling, then council could do those ordinances, just with the understanding if someone runs one of those stop signs until then, the police actually can't give someone a ticket for it.
right, they can
Okay.
give them more. I would love to see that.
Yeah, that would be fine with me
Yeah.
if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I would support that, and I'm just wondering about the timeline for getting the warrant for the Grayling.
Yeah, I would say that the warrant for Grayling would probably take would probably be for next meeting.
But we can get it up in the meantime.
Yeah.
We have to drill.
We have the drill. I feel like there should be
Amazing.
some ceremonial.
Yeah.
I would actually
Should
say,
take a video of the
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
being
yeah.
installed.
our friends on Troy, what can you do?
I can do the first drill.
Oh, no. Or we'll break a champagne bottle. I would love to see Windsor and Conway up first, just because the park is about to get so busy.
Well, it'll happen at the same time. And public
Is that
works will do,
easy?
yeah, they'll do all 4 at once.
Oh, okay,
great.
forgot about that.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
Nice. Awesome.
Just a quick question, sorry to interject comments. Is this like officially voted upon? Is there a motion that's necessary, or just doing it? Like, before
You probably actually should, just to make it official for the
Okay.
minutes. In case anyone asks later, yeah, thank you. You probably should do an
Okay.
official motion.
All right, so could we have a motion to request that 4 stop signs be installed? So this is Conway, Windsor, Windsor and Dudley, Grayling, Windsor.
Right.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, and we vote? Okay. All right,
I'll direct Public Works accordingly and the traffic engineer, and we'll work with council to then get the app going forward.
Bob,
yes, Andrea?
if I may, once you put them up, I would recommend doing a heavy notification campaign via social media, via flash, letting everybody know, because I don't want people to be surprised.
Yeah.
Right,
We could do like some fun video going up, so,
yeah,
or something.
Well, the other thing you can do is sometimes you can put a little flashing red light at top of the,
right.
So to your point, Mayor, Eric Johnson, actually, the borough engineer, actually suggested that we do that, so that's a very good idea.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay,
Just
thanks,
because
Andrea.
it's a new pattern, and once people are in a habit of driving, you gotta shake them out of that habit.
Right, right. Okay, so next we have 5.2, which is Iona. And we'll go back to our manager.
Sure. So where we're at with that, we don't have an official update from the traffic engineer. He did send me an email, which I apologize, Molly, I don't think I forwarded it to you. Where he's at with it right now, he doesn't have the official report written up, but he is planning to recommend speed bumps as well as bump outs. I'm not sure the exact location of both yet, in that area to reduce the speed as well as to discourage cut-through traffic in that area. And there also was some discussion about the no left turn sign that was there. So just a quick recap for everyone here. At a previous meeting of this committee last year, we had talked about the lack of enforcement resources for that sign. And so this committee made the decision to take that sign down. It was brought to my attention that at one point Borough Council had advertised an ordinance to have that sign put up. In an interesting situation I'm still trying to figure out, Borough Council in March 2015 approved advertising the ordinance for the no left turn sign. A legal ad was placed in the newspaper, as we have to do, saying that at Council's April 2015 meeting, they were going to approve that ordinance, or consider approving that ordinance. And then in the minutes for the April 2015 Council meeting, no mention is made of that ordinance. The other thing that's interesting about it, this is part of the reason too why this ordinance didn't show up on the borough's online e-code, is because there wasn't a record of it at the time we codified. The last thing I've been trying to do is actually go through the dusty ordinance books to see, is there actual sign ordinance 982 in there for this no left turn sign? And finally, in the list of ordinances that borough staff have kept over the last 20 years, every ordinance is in there except there's no listing for ordinance 982. It actually skips from 981 to 983. I'm sorry, I'm gonna let someone into the meeting here.
Which is interesting though, just because that sign went up prior to 2015. Long. So it was up long before the ordinance. Well, there isn't an ordinance. The ordinance advertised it, I should say.
So for now, I did tell Public Works to put the no left turn sign back up while we're trying to figure this out, because if there is an ordinance that says it has to be there, then like I would be breaking the law by not having it there. But I am gonna find the actual ordinance book and see if that ordinance actually exists. That being said, the traffic engineer did suggest that, we gathered some traffic data while that sign was not there. And he was curious, once the sign gets put back up, to gather traffic data to see if it has any impact or change on the traffic pattern. I think we all in this room probably know the answer to that question, but, again, he needs to have the actual data to make decisions. And I think if there is an ordinance for that sign and council wanted to repeal that ordinance, having that data would go a long way towards justifying that decision. So that's where I have the no left turn sign, and that's where like I said, we're looking at speed bumps and bump outs. I did not get from the traffic engineer the specific location of where those would be along Iona. But that's what he is gonna officially recommend that we implement to try and address the traffic issues that were reported to us.
Can I ask two questions? One is there an opportunity with the bump outs to do a version of stormwater bump out?
That's what I'd like to talk to him about, given that we, have 19 wards that have for diesel DEP.
Right. I don't know that the block of Tandem is as big as the other blocks, but it feels like we should consider that. The second is, given the fact that the speed is not the issue in Iona, right? The data came back, the average speed is 17. The volume, have we ever considered making a do not enter on what is a disastrous road? What block is at the very end of Iona with the body shop and the dance studio? Yeah, just make that a do not enter.
Well, I'm trying to think, would that really help the problem you're all dealing with that? Because then people would, I'm just trying to envision this from like, I usually don't go that way. I usually turn right on, I go down Windsor, I turn right on Haverford, I turn right on Iona, left on Haverford up to Montgomery.
So I guess I'm thinking more the entire block of Iona and not just the 200, 300 block, but yeah, the poor people on, what block is that? The poor people on the 400 block, I mean, talk about getting your mirrors blocked off.
So I'm trying to think though, okay, so I think though with traffic, I'm not the traffic engineer,
Right.
just me kind of spitballing here. I would see traffic probably still, unfortunately, turning left from Windsor on Iona, and then when they come up to
Right.
The 400 block,
They go
turning
left.
right,
Yeah, yes,
because you can turn right there
Yes.
over to Montgomery.
correct. But it would give those residents of the 400 blocks some tremendous relief of making that just one way.
I mean, yeah, that's something I could ask Mike about.
Because that was an issue. I mean, we think we have a bad, that block,
It's all
Well,
bad.
it's all bad. Yeah, I just don't want to advocate just for us.
I mean, I'll admit, one of the ideas, I think, early on, when Molly and the residents center first called this concern to us, an idea that, again, I'm not a traffic engineer, that I knew on was, do you just make it no left turn ever at Haverford and Windsor? I'm sorry, at Iona and Windsor.
The issue with that was the light. Then they're saying, okay, then you go right and have to make a left out on Montgomery. And then the recommendation was a traffic light, and that's not us. Not like we can do traffic.
For traffic, like where? At Montgomery?
At Haverford and Montgomery. But that's what we're wearing. And PennDOT, that's not us. We were told.
I'll be interested what Mike Schneider thinks about that. That's something, I think for now, I think we want to, our general approach to traffic calming is start with like the least intensive possible solution and then work our way up. So like if we do these speed bumps and these bump outs and they don't solve the problem, then I think the next step is we have to start talking about, do we make that road one way only?
Yeah.
So, I guess, we'll wait to hear from the engineer, but the details will determine if it works or not. It seems like, because it's fully parked, right? So, if you have a bump, bump out, and there's already a car, it's like, how much of a difference is it gonna make? So I guess it would have to be positioned maybe in the intersection or in the right spot.
Well, if I may, that's actually the question I wanted to pose to Cindy and Molly as people who live on that block yeah, if the borough were to do any bump outs in that area, what impact is that gonna have on the on-street parking?
Huge. Yeah, that was the concern when we got it was, well, this is a road that not many folks have driveways and not many folks actually utilize their driveways to full capacity. So a bump out, look, coming from someone without a driveway is really concerning if it's not already at an existing crosswalk. So what we had discussed was, well, if you narrow with bump outs at the pedestrian crosswalk,
Right.
that's the natural.
But also management is a big road, a large piece of road that comes into Iona. And it goes straight across that, it's here, and then it's Iona, and then there's at least one driveway. And so it goes Windsor and Iona, you turn, then you have the Lanchman coming out. So there is a space for a bump because nobody can park
Yeah.
Good point.
and that's where cars accelerate. Like they turn the corner and they're like, woo! And then I think 17 miles an hour, I don't know what the data is or what the research is on what can kill a child or a dog or whatever. But when people accelerate at that corner in that spot up to Meeting House, as far as I'd like someone to tell me that 17 miles an hour cannot kill someone. A kid.
Well, I think,
So I think that is a space right there between the corner and Meeting House that is dangerous. And it's
And you're
not
saying
all
use
parking.
Landsman?
Yeah, that would be my thought. It goes straight into a driveway area.
Yeah, I was looking at that intersection, and there are places where you cannot park.
Yeah.
I think that's where cars
Right.
feel like they can speed up.
right,
Because it's
Mhm.
wider.
yeah,
Right.
So
absolutely.
anything to narrow that traffic lane with have traffic.
Which is at the crosswalk, by the way. It's not, like, it's not a big block. Hold on, Mom. If you go left, there's already at the intersection, it's no parking. So you could do the bump out at the pedestrian crosswalk and it wouldn't take any spots. It's the mid block. Yeah.
And I don't know if, I can't remember all the details of that intersection, but if there is, some sort of barrier to doing the bump outs, you can also, I know there's ideas about having more of a visual cue of like a bump out. So it could be either like painted or it could be, there's different ideas. I don't know.
There was also, speaking of visual engineering, you can tell you're the graphic artist. There was also discussed at Iona and Meeting House. So when you're coming, whatever direction of Meeting House, and there's, because that's a big, people don't stop at all, of doing a bump out there, because again, intersection, no parking with a welcome to Narberth, as it being an entry point from the north side.
For a reason, for that whole intersection.
Yeah.
to be raised.
That was another idea. At one
Right.
point, we had actually talked about, I think maybe in December, it was the B30 Eugene is where you came on the committee. And I think that's another idea as well, that if bump outs and speed bumps don't get the job done, I think that's another idea that should be considered, yeah.
Which is interesting if you kept with that idea. This is also, Windsor and Conway, kind of a welcome gateway to Narberth, and people coming into town. You know, the kind of points I think of as Sabine, Meeting House, and Windsor. So if we were to do bump outs to include some sort of signage, feels like.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a great
they've implemented similar things in Ribbon Square. They
Yeah.
also use different paving materials to
Yes.
get that visual cue that this pedestrian space or pedestrian friendly space for them, just through traffic.
Wait, now that you say this, it's not all raised. It's different materials in suburban.
Yes, yeah, it's raised and it's different materials.
It's not a huge raise. It's not a huge.
No,
divide.
it's a very gentle, but it just gives a signal to
Yeah.
drivers going through the intersection that this is a different kind of space.
Mhm.
It's just,
Mhm.
So that would be preferable to a speed bump.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more expensive. But yeah, it is, I think it's more effective.
Can I talk about it?
Well, yeah, usually we don't have the public comment after public comment. What do you think?
About that.
Okay, but we'll make an
Well,
exception.
I just don't understand, so like the traffic engineer provides a report and then he provides, or he makes suggestions. But so all these comments that are happening right now, like, are they part of his I just don't understand. Like, so he's someone who's gonna be making a recommendation, but it seems like there's so many comments and questions. I don't know, I don't quite get it. Do you know what I mean?
The process.
We would ask him to review this meeting, the recording, and speak with our manager. He's also offered to speak to
Yeah, he
residents.
actually asked.
So he would be willing to speak with you directly.
Yeah, but it just seems like there's so many concerns and people feel that, oh, this would work, or maybe this would work. And I just think it's really important that he hears a lot of people. Because, and I will take this time to say that I think that if you do a speed hump or something at an intersection, that is not addressing what we've been talking about. Because it's not at those exact moments, at those intersections, that is not the main point of concern. The whole street is a concern.
But Molly, so I will say, this is where we really can, none of us in this room are traffic engineers. You're not going to identify people accelerate at this point. These are known traffic calming tools that will change the behavior of traffic. I think that perhaps if neighbors organized and invited the engineer, if he's offered to walk the street. But
Yeah.
what we,
He has offered to make a field.
yeah, you
visit.
should follow up with that. Like, we should follow up and have him visit that. But what I don't want to do, because this is what we used to do, is everyone suddenly was like, played the role of traffic engineer, ourselves
Right,
included, and it wasn't evidence-based.
But that's what I'm hearing as I sit here. You all are talking about putting them in a certain spot, and I'm like, well, I don't understand anything about that. And you're not the traffic engineer, so I'm sort of like, well, how does the traffic engineer make his decisions? Like,
He watches our meeting.
You can
and
watch
gives
the
us
meeting,
evidence.
you come back to us next month.
Yeah.
With recommendation. Yeah, we're not gonna make,
Yeah,
the
we're just
decision.
brainstorming.
I mean, as someone who lives there, I just really need some explanations. Like, I just feel, and I'm sure other people feel this way. If a hump or whatever goes somewhere, people just want to understand what it's supposed to do. Because I think the frustrating thing that will happen is if we don't feel like something's changed, even though something's put somewhere. I'm just saying, I think
Yeah.
it's helpful to have people
No,
part of the process.
And we definitely don't want that happening either, because we're gonna, put the resources into
Yeah.
making something happen.
Right.
The last thing we wanna do is put something in that's not gonna solve your problem, and then we have to come up with something.
Yes.
Yeah,
We don't wanna waste our money, we don't wanna waste our time, so, yeah, the engineer will make the recommendation, but he has offered to speak with the neighbors, so I think we should
yeah.
take him up on that, yeah.
And I think I get concerned when we start talking about parking and safety, because they're both extremely important things. And yet, I feel like they need to remain, I know they're connected, but I also feel like they need to be separated. Because you can't use parking to say, well, we can't do the most safe thing. It's a concern of mine.
So, well, this I think is going to veer into a longer conversation. There's not, the whole borough has an issue with safety, not just Iona, with speeding, with non-compliance with stop signs, with kids and adults, right? So that's not an Iona problem, that's that's arguably an American problem, right? There's not,
Population, residential population.
right, so this is not an Iona issue. The uniquely Iona issue is volume of traffic. Parking, again, someone without a parking spot on a street that is densely populated is in fact a concern. And the data tells us from traffic engineers, in fact, parking on the street is a traffic calming tool because it
Right.
narrows it. So this is where I just want to go, this is where we got railroaded in 2005 when there was a disconnect between the many ideas neighbors wanted and the evidence from the traffic engineer.
Mhm.
And I think that we should stay focused on, safety is not a unique issue in Iona. It's not. Everybody fears for their kid and walking and biking. That we should really think about how we can address the volume and utilize that.
So why don't we do this? by our next meeting, Molly, I don't necessarily want to like appoint you in a role you don't necessarily want, but or either you or you could direct me to the right person for the traffic engineer to make contact with to schedule and organize, a discussion and a walkthrough with you all. And that way, you all will have a sense of why he's recommending what he's recommending, and he can incorporate your feedback into that recommendation.
That's great.
He'll then have his final recommendation for us at our April meeting, and then we can
Right.
do it.
You can appoint me just because I literally live right in the middle of it, so I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
So Mike,
thank
I'll
you.
connect you with Mike, and we'll get that arranged.
Yeah, thank you. I don't mean to, it just, when I did this in 2005, we're like, it's a speed issue. And you know what, when I died, there wasn't a speed issue. It's like, wait,
Right.
yeah, it's a volume issue. And we were like, it's not safe, there's a speed issue. The data came back, there's no speed issue. In fact, it's
So
one of,
the issue.
there's a safety issue all over
Well,
Narberth.
that's fine.
So let's address the issue of volume. Because now we have the data to support and justify the resources in Iona.
Okay, so that seems like a good timeline then. In April, we could have the engineer's recommendation at this meeting, and we could
So would you do a
move
walkthrough?
it forward.
Yeah.
We could vote on it and move it to the council.
So would you do the walkthrough on Iona prior to the April meeting?
That would be cool,
Ideally,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Right, in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, now when Mike has time, the traffic engineer has time as well to incorporate
Yeah.
those comments and feedback into his final report for us for the April meeting.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yeah, thank you.
He gets the prize of doing the drill, and I get the prize of meeting with the
Yeah.
engineer. So it's a
That's
fair
right,
prize.
great. All right. So now we're gonna go, I think, back to 3. This is Environmental Advisory Council and the plastics ordinance. All right, thank you both. So why don't we take a moment with this? I know we don't have a whole lot of time today, but maybe we can at least review the EAC recommendation. If we agree with it, this could start to move forward, at the discretion. So, okay, so we have a memo from the EAC revising the plastics ordinance. And this is, the EAC did some research in coordination with the office staff, looking at other municipalities and what they have put in place since we originally spearheaded this effort in Pennsylvania years ago. So this would be kind of plastics 2.0, learning from what other communities have done and updating our own. So, any questions or concerns about this plan?
So for the benefit of the public watching, who may watch this recording, Rob, could we please provide the one paragraph summary of what the EAC has recommended?
Yeah, okay, so, okay,
So we basically
yeah, do you want to do it? Yeah.
So my understanding of what the EAC has recommended, and if anyone here correct me if I'm wrong, is that we would be, instead of charging a fee for plastic bags, we would just outright be banning plastic bags as well as banning various other disposable plastics.
Right, such as straws.
Right.
And then,
And then we would be implementing a fee for paper bags.
Like many other places.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, yeah.
again, this is not like,
No,
we've actually fallen a little
Oh,
behind the curve,
agreed.
and this would bring us in line with everyone else.
Agreed.
right,
we were the leaders, now we're the trailers.
exactly. Well, and then there are exemptions, of course. There were in the original ordinance and there would be in this. So, and I know that's been a concern of the mayor, but that's kind of standard in all of these ordinances, that you have exemptions for certain uses. But, yeah,
for the benefit of the public, can you explain some of those exemptions?
Yeah, the exemptions EAC recommends are for bulk items such as fruit, vegetables, grains, candy. Could be, so food,
Loose food.
bags to contain, right, wrapped meat or fish, frozen goods, unpackaged prepared foods, bakery goods. So the list of exemptions could be refined, once we start to see a draft, I would think.
I would just go with there, but honestly, I would not need a lot. I would go with the EAC unless someone had that.
I mean, there may be something where one or two uses, but yeah, I think that's most of it.
There should also be a clear exemption for dog waste.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense, yeah.
Well, that's not a store.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a store, it's not individuals.
Yeah, wouldn't affect personal use, just stores, yeah.
Mhm.
I think we do this and then we ask, we could revisit the partnership with the Girl Scouts and the NBA gave away cloth totes. We really
Right.
could kind of kick this off again with how we did originally.
Well, that's actually, I was gonna suggest, once we have the draft ordinance, is allowing, making sure the NBA is
Yep.
aware of it,
Mhm.
and making sure, see any feedback they have. Because Mayor, I really, as we've talked about this, I've appreciated your feedback as a small business owner in the borough. And so I think having the NBA look at it would be good
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a couple other things. So I guess this is considered the second generation of plastic ordinance. It's called ban and fee. So you ban the plastics and you have a fee on the paper. Now, in addition, the EAC followed up with us with an email asking that styrofoam food containers be included. So the EAC memo, this is dated revised March 9th, says businesses will no longer distribute single-use plastic bags, plastic straws, or polystyrene food containers. They will distribute plastic utensils on an as-needed, as-requested basis. We dealt with this in the first generation ordinance when there were ADA concerns, with straws, for example.
Right.
So, but that's part of the recommendation that we would want to consider, is that we would be banning single-use plastic bags, plastic straws, and styrofoam food containers. Basically take out. So I just want to make it clear that that's on the table. And are we okay with that?
The other thing, when we initially did the ban on plastic straws, there was a lot of pushback from the disability community on the straws.
Well, no, they actually were our partners. We had a bunch of partners in the disability community that actually helped shape that. Brooke actually spoke on behalf of GET at our press conference. And not only was there exemption, but they actually did the research to look at the compostable straws that they now use.
Mhm.
I don't see styrofoam as a disability.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would be. I just mentioned that because it talked about plastic utensils on an as-needed, requested basis. Yeah, anyway. I don't think there would be a disability concern, but we could check.
With styrofoam.
Or utensils.
Yeah, I think to the mayor's point, for whatever it's worth, I'm not worried about styrofoam. And to the mayor's point, yeah, I think there are folks in the community we could talk to make sure that any disability exemptions we need to provide, that we make sure we have in here.
Yeah.
So this has been in place in other municipalities without, issue, I think. And I think also running it by the NBA is a good idea. So between those.
Yeah. Okay, so Andrea, what we're saying is we'll run this by the NBA and the disability community.
That sounds good. I mean, when the initial ordinance was signed, there were a handful of people allegedly representing the disability community who were very nervous about this legislation.
This doesn't change the straw.
Right.
It doesn't change anything, Andrea, in the straw ordinance.
Okay,
It means the straw and just eliminates the plastic bags, which I can't imagine would be an ADA issue, and then just add styrofoam.
okay.
But doesn't change the straw.
What is the recommended fee for paper bags?
15 cents, I think.
Okay.
I also have a question about the exemption. What is the process of placing those exemptions in the ordinance? Is that then after the ordinance is passed or before?
No, it'll be done, before.
Well, but often the process is that, once something like this comes out of the committee, then the manager could ask the solicitor to draft it. That could be reviewed by either us or the full council. And at that point, we might be able to make tweaks.
So what I would recommend to the committee, if you give me authorization to have the solicitor draft an ordinance, and then if you're fine with this, I would then like to review that draft ordinance with the NBA and then provide it to Borough Council.
Terrific.
Perfect. And that's, I'm sorry, that's with, we're in agreement to add the styrofoam?
Right, but, you know,
Yeah, I know many of our, well, certainly Coco Tide and probably others have already moved away from styrofoam for takeout.
Indian pho is not styrofoam.
Yeah.
I think there's only one or two, which I also caution that. I think that we should also present, how we do support the business, right? With trash, we just voted down the local tax for employees. And while there will be probably more expense to paper containers and not styrofoam, we do recognize that put more of a burden on our businesses, but there are other ways that we try to support them financially, whether it's with the donations for street, our contribution to the NBA with streeteries. In other words, I would hate to do this for a couple of businesses that aren't on board when we have the majority of those who are making adjustments to that.
Okay, so this could come back. I think, Samantha, you said you're gonna work with the solicitor, run it by the NBA, and then bring it to the council.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And this committee's pretty busy and council has not been as busy, so.
Okay. Okay, great. So, let's see. Shade tree, we had one question, we had a couple emails about, I think with our public works director about planting a tree on North Margaret. From what I understand, that's in progress. Okay. And the shade tree planting, I believe, is April 21st or 2nd on Earth Day. So we're looking forward to that. And I know they're always looking for volunteers to help plant the trees. Okay, so what else do we need to do in the time that we have? We can go to 6.
Yeah, probably the time we have, Tara.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think we can probably get through 6. I don't think there's really, I'll defer to the mayor, but I think for 7, I don't think there's anything urgent to talk about today in regards to anything with the police department.
No, we have the new chief starting on the 22nd. I was at the PAC meeting yesterday. They're working on outreach to the community to get feedback. And we're kind of in a hold pattern until the new chief gets going.
And with the new officer, we're doing the required polygraph on Monday, and we're doing the required physical fitness test on April 8th. So the goal is that Borough Council at their April business meeting will be able to make a hiring decision.
Also, just FYI, one of our officers who was on administrative leave is now back to regular duty.
Nice.
Okay, good.
And then I think for 8, I think we should put that off for the next meeting because the solicitor is still looking at that as well.
Okay.
So if I make for 6?
Yeah, 6, let's do the fire.
Sure. So as we spoke about our last meeting, the Norberg Fire Company brought to my attention that they felt we could get a much better return on funds by moving them to Pliget. The fire company board met on Monday night, and they made a recommendation for money that they have. This is not borough funds. For money that they have, they would like to take $100,000 of it and invest it with Pliget for 6 months. It would be a guaranteed, it's basically the CD. It would be a guaranteed rate of return of, I think, close to 5%, maybe more than 5%. The caveat to it, which I think I might have mentioned last month, is as a 501c3, the fire company actually is not, even though they're a fire company, they're not eligible to be part of Pliget. So what they're asking of the borough, which I have no problem with, and Pliget has no problem with, the borough would actually open the account on their behalf, and then they would send the money in to fund the account, and then someone from the fire company, in addition to myself, would have access to the account. I was planning to discuss this with council next Thursday, as long as this committee doesn't have any objections to that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then for the borough as a whole, I actually, with F&A, if we have time on Thursday, would like to start talking about that as well. But that's also something if we don't have time, we can talk about it later.
Okay, great. Well, it's great to see, fire company and manager, I mean, you guys are really working well together with Samantha and Bill, I understand.
Yeah, I think the relationship, between me and Bill and the fire chief, Brand Dixon, and their treasurer, actually, Walter Bud Bowen, I think it's been really good. And I think in a very indirect way, for the borough, the fire company making more of a return off their own money, helps support, the borough budget as well as our residents. So I think it's just a good thing for everyone.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so, anything else that, Samantha, you wanted to share, like about the EV or EV
Sure.
chargers or the police vehicles or anything like that?
Sure. So the police EV, the Ford, the Leaf we've had for a while now, that's working out pretty great.
Is that in use now?
It is. It's been used for a couple months now.
And is it somehow labeled? Like
So we actually recently put labels on it, yeah.
Okay, and that's great. Is it say like EV or anything? Do people know?
I'll have to check that. I think the Leaf itself,
People know that,
yeah.
Although Matt Healthy, when he got it on the policing car, recommended a green stripe,
Yeah.
which I thought was a good idea.
So with the police car, we have the F-150 Lightning. We have it. It's in the process. The borough owns it. We don't have it physically yet. It's going through the process of getting the decals and getting all the equipment that you need on a police vehicle put on it. And I'm hopeful, talking with Sergeant Bernaccio, that sometime in April we'll have that vehicle actually available for use. And then with the EV chargers, so we've started the installation of the new curbside chargers. The one in our parking lot is here, it's not turned on yet. And some of the other ones, I'll find out later today, I think some of those may have started the process of getting put in. But it looks like, again, probably like mid-April is when Pico will be able to actually do everything they need to do to get them operational as well. So I've also been talking with Pico about, we're calling it a ribbon cutting, but it won't actually be a ribbon cutting. Pico has this giant light switch, and they talked about it might be more thematically appropriate to flip the light switch on. So we talked about doing an event over by the Narberth Real Cinema, because that's where one of the curbside chargers will be. And we felt it was better to do it in that kind of area versus disrupting a residential neighborhood with a bunch of people coming for an event. So we're trying to work and schedule that. it looks like, again, that'll be sometime in the second half of April.
And Samantha, I should be able to attend that ceremony.
Awesome, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the idea that me and Pico have had, if we can make the timing and all work, is Pico mentioned they have some tricked out Ford F-150 Lightning. They bring to events like this. And I told them, if the borough has a Ford F-150 Lightning, if we had both of those together, that might be good, like, sort of synergy. So if we can make that work, we certainly will.
And you should kick that off. You've been a fierce advocate of this work. We would not have this. Rob started on this before you even came, and you two have been the dynamic duo getting this done.
Thank you. It's really a team effort.
Seriously.
I mean, Samantha has really moved us forward with Rose. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
and I think the real breakthrough was somehow, Pico said no originally. Pico said, well, that's not something we do. We don't allow charging, off our poles and all this. And then Samantha went to a meeting thinking it was going to just be a closed door. And somehow they had a change of heart and decided they would do a pilot in Narberth. So I just credit Samantha even just for showing up to that meeting, because I remember thinking, oh, this is not going to go anywhere.
Well, I give, while we're backpatting here, Rob credit for some of the connections in the community that he has, that I think maybe some advocacy with Pico on our behalf that led to this as well. So again, it truly has been a good team effort between the resources that, Rob has and I have to really get us here. And again, I'm really excited for how it's going to benefit the residents of the borough and potentially, and certainly to benefit our business community.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, well, it's a really team effort, so.
Glad you did.
All right, well, I think we're done for today. So this means next month we'd look at the traffic recommendations and we'll do more on the solid waste ordinance. Maybe we could review.
I'll defer to the mayor. We might have our new police chief and director of public safety at the next meeting.
Oh, great, okay.
Nice.
By the 22nd.
Great.
Okay, so I think I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so we'll vote to adjourn and we're done.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Turn off the recording.
So I-
Turn off the recording.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys.
I did want to follow up because it was so funny. This is why opinions change.